Hello everyone, welcome to our podcast. Today we are going to discuss about Greenfield investments. I am Shivani Sharma, part of marketing team at Task Group of Companies. Joining me today is Shobit Patni, a friend and a colleague. Shobit, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you so much, Shivani, and it's lovely to be here, and thanks for having me here. For the audience, what I do is I take care of recruitment as well as professional services, and I help companies across the region and also companies which are outside the region to come and set up as well as operate within the region over here.
So as we start exploring Greenfield investment, Shobit, why do you think this is crucial? How businesses successfully establish successful operations in UAE and Saudi is something that we are going to discuss in the whole podcast. But I think let's start with what Greenfield investments are.
Amazing. I think, Shivani, that's almost like $1 million question because a lot of people get it wrong.
Yeah.
And let me just go very basic, right? What I intend to do is not use jargons.
Yeah.
I'll try not using jargons and some tough words.
Yeah.
So let's start with what exactly is Greenfield investment, right? In very, very simple words, Greenfield investments are those investments which are outside of the region. These companies exist outside of the region and they are wanting to get into a specific geography and are planning to build up from the scratch, from grounds up.
So
right?
any company which is already set up outside the country
Sure.
and they want to establish themselves in the new country would be called as a Greenfield investment.
Pretty
correct?
much. Your understanding is correct there.
Okay. But how is it different from any other business strategy or business investment?
Great, right. No, and I think that's a very crucial question, right? Because there are several forms of investments that exist. And let's say a couple of them are like joint ventures, mergers and acquisition. Now, there's a very stark difference there, right? When we look at a merger and acquisition, what happens is there are either companies that are acquiring or are getting merged with another entity, which also comes in with their own limitations. And when it's a joint venture, it's essentially a partnership, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a Greenfield investment is something which is going to be built up from scratch, from grounds up, right? That's where the main differentiation between these forms of investments.
But why would somebody not choose a defined route and choose like a Greenfield investment route?
Surely. No, I think that's again a very important question, right? And that's something where a management as well as different boards, they take a decision on why they would go and pick up a Greenfield route. Essentially, there are three main reasons, right? And I'm going to try keep it more specific and keep it more relevant for this particular region, which is the GCC, and more specific for UAE and Saudi. Three main reasons why an investment would be set up in the form of a Greenfield is one, it helps you maintain full control, right? It's end-to-end full control, whereas operations, brand, as well as policy setups can be completely controlled at your end. That's one, right? Two, you can also tailor up processes that work for you in other regions, and then you can also customize them basis whatever your guidelines are, right? And third, and the most important one, it also helps you leverage several incentives that are being launched both in UAE and Saudi for these investments. And that's where it becomes a very attractive means to sort of come into the market.
Okay, quite interesting. If I may ask the next question, Greenfield investment, why do you think it is important for businesses today? Why any business owner would think of doing a Greenfield investment?
Amazing. And I think, okay, the way I would probably answer this, right, is let me give you a quick context first as to what has been really happening around here in this very region. And I'll try to give you an answer in one go, talking about both UAE and Saudi, right? Very interestingly, I have some facts and data for you as well as for the audience. In 2023 alone, UAE was able to bring in $30.7 billion worth of Greenfield investment.
30.7 billion.
Yes, that is correct.
Wow.
Now, and it's not just that, right? It gets more interesting. That has been 33% increase from the year 2022.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
There's more to it. As of 2023, UAE ranks second in the world in terms of Greenfield investments. More than 1,300 investments were brought in, and it only follows US in terms of the ranking, right? So there's a very conducive environment around what's happening here in the region. One, when it comes to UAE. At the same time, if we talk about Saudi, I think the world has been witnessing a whole new level and wave of growth.
Absolutely.
Saudi has a vision. Again, it's been following the vision of 2030, where it's completely transforming the way the country is and the way country is looking at future, right? their main goal towards this 2030 vision is to bring in more than $100 billion in terms of greenfield and FDI investments year on year. And that's the goal they intend to hit. Right.
And this is aligned with the Saudi Vision 2030, is it?
That is very true. That is aligned with 2030. And similarly, even UAE has a vision of 2031. And both the countries are making sure, the governments are making sure that it's very lucrative as well as conducive for companies which are outside, again, capital markets which are outside to come in and invest here in the region.
Wow. So you said UAE stands second globally for greenfield investments opportunity?
Yes, that is correct. That was as of 2023.
Wow.
The 2024 numbers are yet to be out, and the numbers are only going to be much, much larger than 23.
Brilliant. That's amazing to hear that. And we live in this country.
Very true.
Brilliant. I think let's make it easier for audience to understand what are existing greenfield investments which has been done in the region.
Sure.
Give some examples maybe.
Fair enough. And I think this is something I should have also addressed in the beginning when I was explaining Greenfield.
Yeah.
Right. Now, let me use some very notable names from the market, right? I think just so that the audience can consume this better. Now, I think we've all heard the great brand Tesla.
Of course.
So the way Tesla entered into this market was through a greenfield investment, right? They came in, they set up their entire infrastructure, they set up their head offices here in UAE, and they have done similarly in Saudi as well. The other one is Lucid Motors. The other one is Hyundai. Again, I'm a automobile enthusiast. All my examples have pretty much those. But again, we have brands like Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Who came in and set up their fulfillment centers, built up all their teams from scratch, right? These have all been very notable examples in the greenfield space.
So Shobit, I understand what you're saying. And you and I live here in Dubai, a tax-free environment. But why these locations are so lucrative for any company to come and set up here?
No, absolutely. I think I love the fact that you mentioned that it's tax-free.
Absolutely. That's the main thing.
And it, of course, gives us so much more benefits in terms of how we can go about spending, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, having said that, it's actually the way governments have sort of set this up for companies, right? There's some very specific points in terms of how and why it is so beneficial for the companies, right? And I'm just going to break it down for you and the audience in terms of why these are those ideal hotspots. Number one is the strategic location, right? Both UAE and Saudi, if you look at the global landscape and the global map, it's right in the center, right? It gives you as a gateway into the Middle East, as well as the larger African regions, which are all upcoming and developing, right? At the same time, one of the most important things that I would look at for a greenfield investment is the infrastructure which exists here already. And as we know, we live in the city and we know the infrastructure is only developing, it's only getting better. It is so crucial for the operations to run smoothly, right? These are two main reasons why they would do it. There are some more reasons such as government incentives. For example, UAE, now you can have 100% ownership of your business. There are different structures, different free zones which are available for investments and companies to come and leverage. Similarly for Saudi, they have launched several FDI related incentive models, which again companies can leverage from, right? Also then there are some economic factors such as, again, both, like I mentioned earlier, both UAE as well as Saudi, they've been very successful in bringing in this investment. What happens is it has been able to then create a much more larger ecosystem for newer investments to come and flourish in, right? And third and the most important one, every time an investment is being brought into this region, every time a company is being brought into this region, one of the most critical aspects of any business is people. Right? And that's where, when we look at the talent pool and the entire workforce that exists here, one, it's an absolute diverse world. People are getting more and more keen and are inclined towards coming into the region here. We've been witnessing this day in, day out. And that's essentially why these regions become so, lucrative for greenfield investments.
So I understand there are a lot of opportunities related to greenfield. From what you have said, I have understood. But I'm sure there must be some risks related to it. There must be some challenges to it.
Surely.
Would you be able to name a few for the audience?
Like, of course.
What they have to be careful about?
Absolutely. I think if you look at an overall global landscape, right, almost all the major economies that you look at, it isn't really easy to set up something from scratch, right? And while both UAE and Saudi, they have tried to make things as seamless, have tried to make things as much lucrative. Of course, there are some challenges. The good part is, while I will tell you about these challenges, the good part is there's constant effort to make these challenges go away and make it more simpler, right?
They have been working day
They've
in,
been
day
just
out.
working at it, right? But then, there are some few of them that I'd like to call out. For example, there are some regulatory complexities, right? For example, in UAE, there is something which was just brought up a year back and so, which was corporate tax. Now, today we have 9% corporate tax. While having said that, it is still one of the lowest in the world.
Absolutely.
Right?
Just imagine somewhere it is 30%,
right?
You're only dealing with the 9% here.
Absolutely, right? And that's why when I speak to a lot of entrants who have come into the market, they're actually very happy to be paying this 9% because they're getting a lot of value out of it as well, right? Similarly, there are some challenges when it comes to having local partners for very specific industries. A lot of industries have been opened up where you can have 100% ownership, but there are some strategic industries where you still need a local partner. Right.
In UAE, still you need a local partner?
This is more so to do with in Saudi. In UAE, it has been opened up quite a bit, as well as a lot of free zones where you can really leverage and make use of all the incentives that are existing in these free zones, right? But then there are a couple of other challenges as well, right? For example, there's something called as the localization requirements. What that means is whenever a company set up here, probably in the mainland, that's when you're required to bring in the local talent force, the nationals from these countries. The reason why countries do this is because while the countries want investments to flourish, they also want their people to develop and ride the wave along with the overall growth journey.
And very rightly so, right? First, your own people should be taken care of, and then slowly and gradually you have the rest of them.
And then the third one that I would like to talk about is the initial costs that are brought in, right? Every time a business is set up, there are certain initial costs that really need to be factored in. One of the ones which is becoming a challenge in today's time is the increasing real estate rents. Rentals are going high, not just for residential. You and I face it, but of course it's the case for companies as well, right? Commercial rents are also going up, but new projects are coming up by the day, right? At the same time, there are some costs that are hidden. When I say hidden, they are not designed to be hidden, but these are costs that need to be planned better, right? For example, delay in getting your licenses, right? This would have direct implications in terms of you being able to operate in the region. Delay in getting your bank account open. So these are some things that you need to factor in well. You need to plan it well. But these are some things that I would say one as an entity, you need to sort of keep in mind while planning.
How much approx time do you think to get a license would take, to open a bank account would take? In any of these countries?
It's very interesting, Shivani, right? And I wish I could give you a very straight answer there. But there are, like I said, there are several free zones, right? I know there are free zones which could do it within days for you. There are some free zones that might take weeks, again, depending on your industry, depending on, what sort of nature of business you are. But again, when it comes to banking, the banking laws are a bit more stringent. They like to go about making sure that things are more secured, the money is well protected, the source is well known. So the banking your bank opening could take, sometimes it might even take up to 3 months, right? Now, while you as an investment, maybe you are in Feb 2025 and you're wanting to start operations in, let's say, April, but you have not factored in these smaller aspects of setting up. This is where your costs of setting up might go up as well. Right?
But I think, Shobit, you must have helped many companies set up already. You've been in the region for quite some time now.
Right.
What points, what steps would you define are very critical for any new greenfield investment to come in and successfully set up?
Surely. I think, Shivani, let me also give you a quick context there, right? I think one of the things that I've thoroughly enjoyed is while working with these businesses and investments that come in, right? Every time I talk to them, it's almost like I'm going through a MBA case study, right? Because it's like, either a company could be in US or it could be in Germany or maybe India or Singapore, while they're doing very well in their regions. And this is a market that they want to really ace, but there are so many things that need to be factored in, right? And so probably 3 things that I would like to call out. And probably the first one is the most obvious, which is your market research. As a company, as a business, as an investment, you need to make sure your market research is on point.
You read it well.
You absolutely need to read the market well, right? At the same time, you need to carry out your feasibility study. Look at your behavioral trends, look at your industry trends, look at your competition. As a business, you would anyway do it. It becomes a lot more critical when you're evaluating this market, right? Second one is choosing the right legal structure. Now, a lot of countries, this probably may not be one of the major concerns for you, right? But when it comes to this particular market, it is very important in terms of what legal structure you want to follow. For the reasons being, let's say if you're a limited liability company, or else maybe a free zone company, the benefits that you might get, the incentives you might get will differ, right? So it is very critical. One, you need to really evaluate as to what is your nature of business, what is it that you're bringing to the market, and accordingly you need to choose your legal structure, right? Okay. And the third one is, of course, like I said, the most important thing, which is people.
Absolutely.
You have to get your talent as well as your entire workforce planning right, because otherwise it can really be a very costly affair for you, right? And that's where you need to sort of make sure what is it that you're looking for, right? How many people you want on a long-term basis? How many people do you need more on a project basis? So you need to sort of navigate and have this planned through very well, even before you enter the market.
Yeah. Okay. I think picking up from what you said, people is the main crux of coming into any new market.
Right.
Do you think that the talent is available for so much of investment coming in? How is the talent landscape looking like?
Surely. I think one, talent is available, but what is something which is very important to note, right? If you go back to my previous stats, there have been so many investments that are coming in.
Yeah.
What that does is it creates such a heavy demand for better talent, right? So when the demand for talent increases, there's always going to be a heavy competition for it, right?
Yeah.
So considering that there is a limited talent pool now, right? Everybody is trying to go for the best talent out there.
Yeah.
So at the same time, one, you will also need to evaluate, let's say if you're a very niche industry, maybe you are into the space of EV. Again, EV as an industry is flourishing now, but maybe if you entered 6 years back, things were different. So the talent landscape is evolving along with the investments that are coming in as well. So today, I think probably this is one of the things that you can make the most advantage of. Being in the center of the world, the ability to attract people and work for you from global geographies is a lot more easier compared to any other region, because again, the government is doing beautifully well in terms of inviting people.
Yeah.
And Shivani, that is essentially the reason why you and I are here,
we
right?
came here, absolutely.
So that's one thing. The other one is on the nationalization. Sorry, like I mentioned earlier, you need to plan and have a real strategy in place in terms of how do you want to go about nationalization, because again, a lot of people are very new to workforce when you're looking at the local talent pool. So you might need to plan in terms of how you're going to uplift them in terms of their learning and development, and then integrate them into your overall ecosystem.
So one more question. You mentioned twice that nationalization, localization is something that we have to be conscious about. Is there some guidance, some support which also comes from the government?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Shivani, maybe I can have like another 1 hour podcast just on this, right?
Okay. Just some thoughts for the audience.
Very
right?
true. I mean, for the audience, let me just give a very high level view, right? Yeah. One, like I mentioned earlier, why these governments are pushing for nationalization, right? It is not that they want to create these biases. The simple thought process there is they want to involve their nationals into the workforce, right? Yeah. Historically, nationals have worked predominantly for government companies, but they want them to learn the new businesses, the new way of doing things, and that's where they're trying to bring them into the global world, right? Having said that, what are the benefits? Government has also come up with some benefits for these nationals, both in Saudi as well as for UAE. There are some direct monetary benefits, and then there are some non-monetary benefits even for the companies, right? Yeah. Again, happy to share with the audience. Maybe we can share a link, and there's like enough and more details, which can really be helpful for companies to evaluate this.
Okay. I think as we move towards wrapping up the session, what suggestion, guidance would you give for anybody who is considering right now UAE, Dubai, Saudi as a location to start their greenfield investment?
Sure. I think, all right. So Shivani, the way I would go about this, right? And this is purely going to be from what I've been told, basis all my conversations with all the businesses that have come in, a lot of investors that I speak to, right? And probably I have 3 points here again, right? The first and foremost would be, you really need to understand the regulation, right? Yeah. You really need to understand how compliances work here.
I think compliance is a critical thing.
Absolutely. It is the most critical aspect. In fact, I have a stat for you. Almost 85% of the businesses that have come in and were not able to succeed 85% of businesses that were not able to succeed, they have all cited as regulation and compliance challenges as the key reason why they could not succeed. They had the market, they had the demand, they had the product, but because they did not go about it doing the right way, it really resulted into a negative situation.
Is a big percentage.
Right? And
but I'm assuming there must be companies who would be there, present, supporting
very true.
all of these discussions, decisions to be taken within the companies, right?
Right. So I think there are functions within the organizations, but the situation is most of these functions, they sit in their respective home countries, right? For example, let's say when Tesla was coming into the country, Tesla being a US headquartered company, their legal team, their compliance teams, all the major corporate teams, they sit out of US, right? The sheer understanding of what is happening here on ground somewhere is missing. And that's where it is absolutely critical for you to find a local consultant who knows the market very well, who knows the nuances of all your compliances and regulations.
And is updated day to day. You said it's
things are
changing,
evolving, right? Things are evolving. This region is growing. With growth, things have to be agile, right? It almost works hand in hand, right? If you're not agile, you can't grow.
Correct.
So because of that, yes, you need somebody who's locally rooted here and who can help you navigate these things, right? So understanding your regulations and compliances is probably the first advice that I would give. The next one would be, like I mentioned earlier, prioritize your workforce, right? When I say prioritize your workforce, what I mean to say is not just have a large, broad map in terms of how many people you want to hire, what type of people you want to hire, break it down, right? In terms of, okay, how many people do you really want to sponsor in terms of on your own licenses, right? These would have certain complications around it as well. At the same time, figure out how many people can you outsource. Maybe how many people you might want to do remote, right? Because this region gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of operations.
Yeah, you could do a combination of all three put together.
And that is where you need to plan this even before you enter the market, right? So prioritizing your workforce on day one is as critical. And my last advice would be patient and you have to be adaptable, right? Like we just spoke about, right? This region is evolving. Things are happening at unimaginable speed. With this, yes, you have to be extremely agile, but then at the same time, you have to be really patient. Do your research well, and I think you'll be in a good pace to sort of come in and set up and do well for yourself and your business. So these would be my 3 advices that I would share.
That's a great advice, Shobit, I would say. So I think we'll wrap for this session, and this is a never-ending conversation.
Very
we
true.
could go on.
Very true.
But I think for our audience, we could ask them that what is the next around Greenfield investment you would like to hear from us. Please help us know in the comment section, and we'll be happy to host a second episode on this. But for our listeners, if they want to know more about related to investment, how to set up, where they can connect with you.
Right. Now, I think thank you so much, Shivani. It was lovely speaking to you about Greenfield investments.
Thank you. It was all insightful for me also. Many new things that I have also heard from you, though we sit next to each other.
Absolutely. No, and for the audience, I think the best way to connect with me would be through LinkedIn or through my email ID, which I would do. What I would do is I'll share my email ID along with this podcast, and feel free to reach out, feel free to connect with me, and we'll be more than happy to sort of help you and navigate through this.
Brilliant. Thanks a ton for tuning in for today. If you have any suggestion on what we should cover in our next series for Greenfield investment, do let us know in the comment section. And till then, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shobit.